Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Calvadas.
Here.
Mr. Capano.
Here.
Mrs. Passio. Here. Mrs. Moore.
Here.
Mr. Ruth.
Here.
Mr. Wood.
Here.
Mr. Bayshore.
Here.
And Mr. White.
Here.
Public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act has been given by the clerk in the following manner. 1, posted on the bulletin board in the Borough Clerk's office on January 6, 2014. And 2, emailed to the Retrospect and Courier Post on January 6, 2014. A new business discussion. Okay, we can go through this pretty easily. Do you want to go to the public hearing for the retention request bond ordinance prohibits parking on Davis Road and Tillman? Just to let everybody know, all these have been advertised. So we have basically a second reading on the bond ordinance, which is and just let everyone know that the bond was carved out. We're only doing the truck to start off with, the fire truck. And then after we get through our budget, we can determine the rest of the money for the rest of the year. Is that correct, Mr. Rowe? Yes. The parking on Davis Road, we did first reading on that, per the engineer's specs, so that'll be done. And the towing, we did first reading by title. Mrs. Kelly has spent a lot of time with our solicitor. I think we've got something that fixes something that comes back to 1979. So that's been advertised, and that will be done, correct, Joyce? We'll be able to vote on that
On which one?
for second and final reading.
No, it was
No,
advertised today.
It's advertised. And then once the towing's done, then we can get the applications and be done. One quick question on the bond ordinance for the fire truck. Since the bids came in, and after we have the money set, can we place the order at that point? Is that something we intend to do?
Yeah.
At the first?
You need 20 days.
So 20 days after the bond?
20 days after, I believe it's advertising of the second reading.
20 days after advertising the second reading, in case there's any kind of a stop here. Okay, so then what we can count on then is that at the May meeting, we should be able to place the order for the truck. Because I think the bids are already in, right?
Yes.
The quotes. 2 resolutions regarding the tonnage grant application submission. Is there anything here?
No, that's the standard, we do this every year.
Yeah.
Submit the application and talk about how the taxes will be going.
Okay.
That's the second.
All right. Resolution Safe and Secure Grant. This is us just, every year we get a grant from the federal government for our police department. Resolution adjusting sewer charges. There should be no question on that. Resolution regarding library funding. Mr. Wright, you want to elaborate on this?
Yeah. We met with the library board last month, or the month prior, and one of the discussions was increasing the amount of the direct, library aid that goes to the library. We basically cut a quarterly check to the library, and I believe in the first year, meaning 2014, they were requesting a $10,000 increase. So my recommendation for that is Q2 is due on April 1st, so we'll increase the Q2 payment to $35,000, which will cover the first and second quarter increase, and then the next 2 quarters will be $32,50 or $30,000.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
You aware of this, Patty and Mike? You know, the borough does pay for a lot of the costs in the library. This is an ongoing issue. But I think their request for $10,000 is nothing too extravagant. And I think that's what they asked for, and I think that's,
Yeah, most of it was due to the increase for, because of minimum wage going up, things like that. A lot of it was for that. more
Yeah,
than
it's
anything
labor
else.
costs.
But they usually go over the max, they usually go over the 2% on the wages. You know, there's a
I
cap.
don't think they.
I think that most of their, they have mostly part-timers, I think. There's only
I know.
really one full-time, right? But there was other things that were on their list, that, things like there were some capital improvements.
Oh, I know that, I
some
know all
fixes,
that
yeah.
in the library,
Yeah,
I was on
so-
it for a lot of years.
Yeah, so I don't think it's stupid. So we can take care of that.
And they are budget conscious. They are extremely budget conscious. They really are.
Resolution authorizing a resident to install driveway apron For some reason, another one of our archaic ordinances says that it is the obligation of the council to tell the resident that he must put a driveway apron in. Did you get a chance to look at this?
The guy on Oakland Avenue.
Did they really?
What happened was a gentleman on Smith Lane.
He lives on Oakland.
He lives on
His
Oakland.
house is on Oakland.
On Smith Lane, he put a driveway in, which was proper, but he did not put a driveway apron. So our code enforcement / zoning officer went out there to inspect it, saw that it hadn't been done. Between himself and the construction code official, there was no means for them to say, you need to put this curb cut in for an apron. So, yeah, I might have said, if you're not before you leave, I can give you a copy. Basically, what we're looking at is just a simple resolution telling him to do that. Now, we can always amend it.
Resolution's not a problem, we gotta change the ordinance.
Yeah, we'll change we'll do a resolution, and then we'll change the inside.
The resolution's a piece of cake, but he has to say exactly what you want to do, but we need to change this ordinance. It's
Yes,
crazy.
it is crazy. And we have to send someone.
Will you give me some direction as to what this resolution should look like?
Sure.
So is that why our construction official didn't tell him to put the apron in?
He had, from,
I have no authority.
Mark, I don't know if you want to jump in, but for some reason, between himself and the zoning official, they, and Bev was the one who brought it to my attention, right?
Yep.
Was, they had no authority to tell the gentleman to put a driveway.
Right.
So I think I have a copy of the letter from the zoning.
Here it is.
Oh, you have a copy?
You tell me.
So six
what
councilmen.
needs to be done.
Council members would know better than construction officials.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense. But it's in the ordinance, so what's the date of the ordinance?
Nineteen
1950.
fifty-four.
There you go.
That's the reason.
Didn't even have many houses then.
1954.
Not
We
really.
already had three councilmen. It's council people.
So we'll amend that paragraph in 54.
Trying to find it, this is just curves.
Yeah, there's a
It's
line.
down near the
that's-
bottom, I
I
think.
think it's in
Isn't
there.
it?
Yeah, I don't
Where
have
mayor and council make the decision if you want to.
It's right there, oh, by the way.
It says that there always the way of any curve or sidewalk. Curve or sidewalk.
Yeah. It was in there, so we'll look
There
at it.
somewhere, I don't know if it's on the, maybe it is on the next.
Yeah, so we'll do the resolution, and next month, maybe we can start to fix that ordinance, and at least clarify it and take care of that.
So we wanted to install a driveway apron, that's all.
That's it, we're just giving him
He has
permission,
more than,
authority.
he has more than
we're
ample room to
requiring-
park. He
I
has
don't know how
more
we
than
say
enough- He has more than enough room to park. It's not like he's violating anything by making a
And he's a
driveway
corner
there.
property.
It's just,
Yeah, I don't think
there's
there's,
no saying, and he's been nice about it. He's even put little blocks so he doesn't have to jump the curb too much.
And
Yeah.
you have some identifying, I mean,
is there an address?
To the
Well, we can look it up.
address in the email, it's in the email.
It's in the email, there must be a separate.
Is it on the front, there is not an address there, Oakland Avenue?
Oakland Avenue. I don't know, 7 something maybe, or 8.
there it is.
8.
I have
Yeah,
What is it?
yeah, we have,
557.
Really?
but it faces, the driveway faces
The
Smith.
driveway faces Smith.
You know,
He's on the
you drove
corner.
by it.
He's on the corner.
Everybody drove by it?
They all know.
Okay.
Okay.
Discussion of consent to existing signage relating to Charlie's Auto Service. What this pertains to is, we are the landlord of that property.
Oh, Charlie, yes.
So we have to give approval before he can pull a permit.
And we have to approve his making the application,
Yes.
just like any owner would have to.
What kind of sign are we looking to do here?
I think they're existing signs, and that was the point.
He just wants to replace them?
No, he has existing signs.
Yeah.
Planning board.
No, the zoning official.
Oh, the zoning.
But the zoning official has to approve it, but we're the landlord. So if you've driven by the property, these are existing signs that he was cited for not having a permit. You ever seen him? He's got a little sign on the side of the
They're
building,
like
it
the
says
red, white,
Charlie's.
blue signs?
Yeah, he's got an office.
Yeah.
I have to sort of recuse myself because I sold him the signs. I didn't install them, but I sold him the signs. And, you know, if you guys can take a look at it. But we have these two separate hats here. We're not really following the ordinance. The ordinance is up to the zoning officer to make sure that he's okay. And I'm under the impression he's being the landlord. But if the landlord, Keith went after
Is
him.
Keith gonna go let you have a
I'll prepare
sign up?
consent for-
And go put a sign up? You know, how it is without signs.
No, the Does someone, I think, meet the ordinance?
Okay, so that's
Because the
not-
building's so big?
We're not,
Oh, we're the
we're not
landlord.
taking a
We
position.
have to approve.
Nobody allowed.
He's asking you.
He's
No,
asking
no,
you to
these are
own.
attached to the building, I mean, these are
Yeah.
signs attached to the building.
I think he's got two
Yeah, they're
signs
not
on the
like any
building.
kind of
But
outside,
I need a
box
resolution
or
or
in the
anything.
building.
You guys can get a chance to drive
I
by.
don't think so.
I really don't want to vote on
Alright,
it, but,
no,
but as the land, we are the landlord, so we have to get
I'm fine
landlord
with it.
approval.
Yeah, well, we're gonna approve for him applying to the appropriate authority.
And then it's
We're
subject
not
to.
signing what he sent us.
Okay.
The borough gives consent to the continuation. We're just saying, we're okay with you making this application.
Make an application.
No, we're not making any value judgments. That's
Yeah.
up to our.
Because there is an ordinance that has to be
right.
followed. So we'll take care of that. Discussion of ordinance outdoor dining drive-through windows. Has everybody got a copy of that?
I read it.
Did you read it? I think it was well written.
Very good.
You know, Leah, who represents Spock Associates, I think she did a very good job. She gave good parameters. I believe the process for us to do this is to send it to the planning board for them to do that. But what we can do is we can introduce this for first reading at our April meeting, and then leave it up, let it go back to the planning board. It was written with the planning board in mind, because they're the ones who gave
They
us,
sent it back to us.
they gave us constructions that they wanted a conditional permitted use. You know, Leah basically took what works and came up with this ordinance that allows, anybody who wants to say have a drive-through or run, they're gonna have to go in front of the plan. Anybody who wants outdoor dining is
I
gonna
say you have control of the traffic.
There is some-
And it's up to discretion then.
Yeah,
They just can't go and do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty promise for our police department.
So we're gonna pass an ordinance that allows it, but it's a conditional use. Anybody who applies would have to go to the plan.
Planning board.
Okay.
So if we can put that on for first reading, as long as everybody's
When
okay.
you first, you realize, until, if the planning board wants to make any changes, I don't want to advertise.
Well, I would advertise, I agree with you. But we're at least putting it out there, saying we're moving forward on
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
They have their meeting in April, they'll look at it. If they give us a green light,
Yeah.
we then would advertise. But you're right, it might not happen until June.
That's what I'm saying, if they.
Yeah, we're not in a hurry.
If they recommend any changes.
We'd have to do it twice, or just one?
No, before I advertise.
Yeah,
it
we're
for
not gonna
second reading.
advertise until we.
Until we're done.
Correct. The
Yeah.
same thing we did with the shuttle.
So we got it done.
Fit
They
into our
may
schedule.
not be to the next month.
Yeah, and they may take more than a month to review it. No, you
Yeah,
know,
well, they have a limited amount of time.
they have a limited amount.
I would think we probably won't get to this until June realistically, just the way time's going.
Okay, because they need it at a different time.
Yeah,
But I say we still do at least first reading, because if they do get it done.
right, and we're at least thinking about,
A discussion of letter from David Rowan, who's the solicitor for the planning board, which he wants to understand what constitutes a front yard line. I have a huge issue with this. I don't know how you feel about this. I don't want to, I mean, is anybody aware of the question at hand with this letter? I don't got a copy of the letter.
Yeah, this needs to be done. This needs to be done. You're talking about zoning and planning, you can't have discretion. It doesn't work.
And that's the argument, that there was a discretion element in here, that the construction official could determine where the front yard line began. And just to make everybody understand how I think it was written, and most people might understand it, is if you have a house that isn't just a square, that might have a porch pump out, or a garage pump out, things like that, that the front of your property, you know, say you're facing your house and your garage face is closer to the street. Well, on that side, you might be able to, the front of your house is that point. But you would never put a fence across the front of your door to the other side if the house is set back. See what I'm getting at? It was designed to do that. So you think there should be a definition change on the front yard line?
Yeah, I mean.
What's saying the furthest most point of the property,
Well, I don't know if you want to
the
say.
building?
I don't know if you want to say that.
No, I
about the
don't
front
think
yard.
I want it either.
I mean, that has probably creates small problems
That's right.
for everybody except for the corner property. Because now, it becomes more difficult with the corner property if you've got a bump out, or you've got an existing garage that's in front of your property, and that becomes your front yard line, and then, you have problems with sight lines, et cetera. So I don't know if you want to go that far. I think, we have to think about what we want to do, or maybe ask them what their thoughts are. I'll just.
Well, I think what they're looking for is a definition of a front. I don't want to kill this one too much. But, this has been going on for several years, this issue, because of an issue, the fence issue that we had. But in the ordinance, it allows for the for the construction code official to determine. You know, it says front yard fences are those which project past the required or existing front yard line of the building as determined by the construction code official. These fences shall not exceed 48 inches in height, and shall be chain link or other see-through construction. So, once again,
So that's-
if you read the second
So that's not
line,
even the problem, though. So that's not the corner lot problem.
no.
That's only just.
I'm on the curve, where mine goes
What
from
the
the
line,
front
what the front
down.
line is.
But if you read the second, see, this is what happens, if you read the second sentence, you're not even allowed a stockade style fence in your front yard.
Yeah.
And then if you read the line, and then section C, fences and hedges at intersecting streets, a corner lot shall comply with fence regulations for the front yard areas as outlined. So, once again, if you're a corner property, you're not allowed a stockade
Well,
fence.
But part of the problem was that our code official decided that he didn't have two front yards.
Which is in direct contradiction of the
Well,
ordinance.
the ordinance, I don't know that says enough what it needs to say about what's, but corner properties always have two front yards, period.
Period.
But he now says, no, that's not your front yard, don't worry about it. Because it says you can't have that in your front yard, which we all understand, okay, and we're saying you've got two front yards. He's a very nice guy, by the way, Mr. Lowe.
Okay.
I've spoken to him 3 times already. But it's okay. I mean, he's very compliant, and he wants to do the right thing, and he's a good guy. So he went out and said, well, don't worry about it, because that's not your front yard.
I know that's what was told to you.
Yeah, so that's the
But
problem.
what do you think? Do you think we have an obligation to fix this? Is there something in this ordinance that's not clear?
Well, the discretionary part is what concerned me. I think we should define what's going to be, what's the line that defines. And I'll look at some other ordinances from some other towns and see how they define.
Maybe some definitions at the front of the chapter.
Yeah, and I'll try to
When
address
was
it.
this ordinance written?
This ordinance was written and amended in 2000. It was written in amended in 94, and amended in 2000, so it's not terrible.
It's only 14 years old, like a new kid on the
It's
block.
like, I mean, and, you know, and one other thing I did think of was just the fact that there's, we do have setback ordinance, we have setback rules. So a stockade fence is almost like a building. So we do have setback rules. I think some other towns I've noticed, that they might say you can put a stockade fence up, but it has to be beyond the
Yeah,
setback.
of course, that's setback.
Yeah,
Could I have that?
you can have it. There's a second
Say
stage.
something about the plastic fences too, you can't see through them either.
Well, that's the point, it's anything that you can't see through.
Yeah, okay, I'll deal with it. Put on my homework list.
But you wouldn't put it in the front yard, because you're impeding the sight triangle of other people.
Driving.
Yeah.
Being on a
Well, yeah, think about the hedges. Think about if somebody puts a hedge on a corner property. Think about if somebody puts a hedge, if you've got, say, your driveway, that's just as a classic example. Sis has a nice driveway up to her garage. If someone were to put a 6-foot fence along her driveway, she could not see as she's backing out.
Maybe sis can.
What was your answer when I said that? You said you
With
couldn't
these
have-
new cars, you can.
Well, you can't see around the corner.
I have lights at the bottom of the driveway too.
No, so it's all about sight triangles, it's all about that, that's all this is about. It's not about stopping people from having privacy. And that's why I said,
20 feet.
you know, the ordinance might be better to say setback.
But I'm bad enough, 20 feet away from
Yeah. So on a corner property, think about how difficult it is. Your neighbor, in this way, this ordinance, or the way it's been interpreted, the neighbor would not allow to be, put the same fence in his front yard, but yet the guy next door can, because his house is facing a different direction. That makes no sense. You know, oh, you don't like this issue.
I'm confusing myself with the whole thing. I live on a corner and I have a fence.
Yeah.
And our code official told me that I could have one.
Yeah, same issue, same problem.
And you're okay as long as nobody comes in?
And nobody should, because it's in the back of my house.
Yeah.
No, don't worry about it. You're not encroaching on the front yard thing?
No,
Well,
I'm not. And you sit there and you say that, but when he came out to my property.
Is your property on 2
Wait a second.
streets?
It's not my point.
your property on 2
You're not,
streets?
because you've never let me fully explain to you, when he came out, I addressed that issue with him, and I wasn't even on council at that time, and I addressed that whole issue of the 2 front yards, and he said to me, if you ran that fence all the way up the side of your house, because of the way your house is positioned, then it becomes you're closing in and you're obstructing a view. You're boxing in a space in the back of your house. that makes it different, and that was what that was the stipulation.
But he's interpreted the ordinance wrong.
That's why I'm not gonna get involved in
And
this.
apparently differently.
And differently,
Exactly.
and apparently differently.
Which is the reason why we have to change it. That's
Yeah.
what tells
Absolutely.
you why the discretionary. can-
And there are other houses.
Because nowhere
that
does it
have-
say-
That have gone up the side of the property to the very front corner of the house, so that does create a view.
And nowhere does it say that it's okay if it doesn't go up to the front corner of the property. See, that's
Right.
the thing with this ordinance, if you're saying it's a little vague. I don't have a hard time with it being vague, because there are parts, if you read the ordinance, that say corner properties have 2 front yards. It's all in there. He's just interpreted it, I believe, incorrectly. And I'm not the only one who's done it. We've had 2 lawyers write letters to us, and the state of New Jersey, telling us that it's wrong. So we just have
Stop
failed,
looking at me.
we have failed to fix it.
Stop looking at me.
We have failed to fix
Well,
it.
we're gonna fix it.
Okay. And then, discussion of appointments for EMTs.
Is that just when new ones going up, or you're gonna make everybody that's had them in for 40 years take them down?
No. There's no.
You know what I'm saying, I'm just
No,
thinking,
if we adopted an ordinance on Tuesday, it's effective Tuesday, not
Not-
effective today.
okay, it's not
Not
prior.
effective, it can't be retroactive. The issue would become if somebody challenged
Something
an
new.
existing fence based on the existing ordinance.
Right.
That would be a different issue. But this one can only be enforced prospectively.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just,
But there's nothing to say that you're right, there could be some
Right,
pre-spec
you know what I'm saying,
challenges,
yeah,
because we get,
correct?
correct.
Are
Based
you
on-
stopping him from issuing any permits as of right now?
He's no longer the zoning officer. That was basically we've segregated zoning from construction.
they don't have to.
So the zoning officer interprets the zoning ordinance prior to anybody doing anything. So what the zoning officer's doing is, he's reading the ordinances, he's interpreting them. When he has a question on the interpretation, he brings it to the planning board, which happens on many occasions, because there's missing pieces.
Well, they don't have to do it.
Then there's a zoning application which we allow now, there's a $25 zoning application, or 65, whatever it was, depending on the size of the
But I thought they didn't have to come in for a fence permit now anymore.
yeah, if you want to, we can go over this a little more, if you want to go over this.
No, I remember we didn't,
No.
Okay,
let's move on here.
here's a letter dated December 22nd, 2011, basically saying that the construction code official was not
Yes.
allowed
Yes.
to issue construction permits for fences. The zoning permit is allowed because that's controlled by the borough. The state of New Jersey controls the uniform construction codes and fees. So they sent us a letter and said that he wasn't supposed to do this. Then, we have another letter dated October 31st, 2011, which once again said that the fence on the corner of
And is this
Sherry,
all pertaining to one property?
yes,
Right, so this is one.
very
property.
unique,
Okay, this is one
that the
property.
fence should be considered a front yard and should comply with the regulations in paragraph B, which requires that the fence to be no more than 48 inches in height. So we had this letter on 2011.
But we're all aware of this.
Okay, but she sounded like she was
No, I don't think she's
confused.
confused.
Then we revisited
Now,
it
our
again.
question is
No,
about
that's-
fees for fences, that's all.
The
that's
fees are only zoning fees now.
Yeah, not construction, not permit fees.
Right.
so they should pay the people back who just got them paid, yeah.
No, they shouldn't.
Why?
Because you're not gonna get yours back anymore than I'm gonna
Because
get
once
mine
again,
back.
because I believe what's happening is that it's happening, everything is moving prospectively. They said we can't do this moving forward, so we stopped.
We did some. We stopped collecting.
It would with you, but not with mine.
Well, weren't you the mayor last year?
Yeah. And then I had the other guy come out and say, did you get
Survey.
fence put in? I said, I took an existing fence down and put one up. It's been there for 48 years. You're telling me what I'm doing? I was a little ticked off.
Yeah. Well, I think we can fix it. I think we can fix it.
We will do our best.
Both issues will get resolved.
Fix it
Working on
and be over it
it.
already.
We'll go through this other stuff and then we'll get to committees. Resolution 1455, resolution calling for the legislature to make permanent the 2% cap and interest arbitration. If you guys have been paying attention, they're going to extend it to 2015, but the proposal allows up to 3% salary increases. Did you read that? Which makes no sense.
One, he's gonna use it one time.
Okay, I haven't read the
Yeah,
whole
it's like one bite.
You know, there's,
They're saying you could only use the 2% exemption one time, or like a one bite of the apple as well. Just
3%?
I thought it had something to do with if you could justify that,
No.
cost, if you through attrition and
They're also-
cost.
They're also saying the breakage, I thought
Yeah.
the other day would be a reason that you could raise it higher.
Yeah. But it looks like that's what's gonna end up passing. So the 2% cap on us is gonna
You're not
remain.
doing these now?
What's that?
You're not doing these now?
You wanna do this now because
No,
it,
I don't want to do anything, I'm just.
These are on.
oh, you wanna do this now?
These
Oh,
are ready plus
Yes,
registration.
oh, I'm sorry, they're on for action. Okay. Okay, so Joyce, you wanna read it then and we'll vote?
That's Resolution 1455 is the resolution calling on the legislature to make permanent the 2% cap on interest arbitration awards.
We have a motion?
I make a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Oh, any opposed? Okay, motion carries. So we'll send them a letter.
Resolution 1456 is the resolution authorizing application for program year 36, 14 to 15, CDBG grant.
Mark,
On the Irish Hill Road.
This is for Irish Hill Road. We talked about last month, we just have to get the resolution to complete the application. The application already went in, they were due last Thursday, I believe. So we went on the recommendation from last council meeting, it's just a formality that we have to do.
Okay. Have a motion?
I make a motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Oh, roll call.
Oh, wait, it's for the money, 33.5.
Yeah.
Mrs. Passio?
Yes.
Mrs.
All right,
Moore?
yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
And Mr. Cabadas?
Safer.
Yes, I don't think it's a roll call.
And resolution, we okay?
Yeah, we're good.
1457 is a resolution approving the low bid for the installation of chain link fence at the baseball fields.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? You want to just clarify what this is? Mark?
This was for installation of vinyl coated fencing at the two large baseball fields and the two T-ball fields that are currently being constructed right now. The low bid was all vinyl fencing for $64,300. I believe there were $12,000 less than the next lowest bidder and over $60,000 cheaper than the third bidder.
60,000 cheaper.
Yes.
Half.
It's trying to get a home run. This is roll call.
I need a motion.
We had a motion in a
Yeah,
second.
Mike did it then.
Oh, and-
Mike did that.
And who was the
Mike.
second?
Yeah.
Me, Mike said first. He said.
Mrs. Passio?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
And Mr. Capadas?
Yes.
6 ayes, 1 absent.
And Mr. Wright, will be able to get a PO out tomorrow?
Oh, yeah, that sounds quickly.
And then we have Resolution 1458, which is the emergency temporary appropriations, the
Oh, yeah.
temporary budget.
Did you hear that
Yeah, I
one?
heard it.
That was not directed to you, I'm just saying.
I think it was.
No, I don't think it was, and I think you should just be quiet.
1458 is the one that Rich, I brought in,
1458, this is this one.
the temporary budget.
Oh, this one she brought in.
Do I have a motion? Does anybody have any questions before the motion? Or- Rich, do you want to elaborate first before we, does everybody understand this?
Yes, I'll explain for the original temporary budget basically covers the first 3 months of the year, and it's capped at 26.25%. There's things that happen after the first 3 months of the year and continuing salaries and wages. The big ones in here to make the number so large, obviously an increase in the health benefits line, bringing that up to about 45%, and the pension bills are due on April 1st. So there's $359,000 for one, $134,000 for the other. So the rest of it is just bringing the temporary accounts up to for another 6 weeks or so.
Okay. Do you want to keep going about, talk a little bit about budget, will be next month? All vote on this. Okay, is there any other questions on this before there's any motion? Okay, do I have a motion? Oh, we have a motion in a second.
We need a motion first.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Okay, now a question?
Who made the motion, Bob?
No,
Mike, then Bob.
Bob second.
It's pertaining to public
Sit down,
events.
roll call,
I
buddy.
saw it somewhere in here.
It should be an increase over previous budget.
It was for $10,000.
It's on page,
Where is
right
it?
here, other common operating expenses.
Yeah, at the bottom, under your public works.
Oh, yeah, celebration of public events, other
Yeah.
expenses, 10,000. What exactly is that?
Just moving some money in
It's,
there.
whatever, anticipated over the next 6 weeks?
Just over the next 6 weeks.
Mayor and council, or anything else that comes up in that period?
Oh, yeah, okay, I can use that.
It's your money, your budget line.
Your budget. Okay,
Mayor and council.
any more questions? Roll call? This is only temporary.
Mrs. Passio?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Root?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
And Mr. Powell?
Yes.
12 ayes, 1 absent.
Okay, does that take care of all that?
Two-way sign now for resolution.
Yeah, we can start with that first, if you want to at least bring that up, and,
We've had a letter and a gentleman at the planning board meeting and about Forest Avenue around us. And we do already have a speed bump on that street.
Forest.
And he would like to see if we could have a three-way stop sign put at over here.
Stratford?
Stratford and Forest Avenue, both sides. It's a curve, and it is dangerous.
And there are streets.
Yes.
These are our streets. It's a very unique situation where two streets come together. It's very narrow. If you could look into that, I guess, would be the first step.
Brian,
Or it's you before the police, or is there any police at all?
The police
Why have
usually
they-
look into it too.
I have the police moving the guy's truck constantly because he parks there.
Oh, yeah, but we can like create an area by painting a curb yellow, that's probably an easier fix than putting up a stop sign.
No, it's the curve. It's a curve. Have you gone up it?
Do you know,
I
Bob?
Yes, I do,
Bob,
and I spoke to you about that,
Yeah,
Nick. You
that's-
said you think we might own more ground there to widen that area?
Well, there was also another,
We had looked at that.
Did you look at that?
A couple of years ago about trying to
Widen?
widen it, but it was going to be too cost prohibitive, I think.
No, you
And there's
couldn't.
also a right-of-way issue
With
on the
one neighbor.
inside of the
That's-
radius,
Yeah.
with having to put in the curb and stuff like that.
the road narrows to that point. There's a parking issue on one side, and then there's just quick flow. See, the parking is one issue, but the quick flow is another
It's
issue.
bad.
Fix the parking there.
The parking could be fixed with the yellow line, the quick flow could be fixed maybe with stop sign.
And I believe there was a telephone pole and fire hydrant on the outside.
That's
Maybe
right.
that was the impeding us.
That's
from-
what it is.
There was cost restriction in trying to widen that intersection.
Yeah.
Could-
We were trying to, like, I forget what the numbers were, but we had a little bit of money left over.
Couldn't do it.
It wasn't going to be enough.
At least find that, maybe. If we own the, one of the problems is the road narrows. And no matter, even if there is a stop sign, if there's somebody parked, or pulling up the stop sign, somebody parked here, and somebody coming the other direction, I think it's the problem.
Well, I do have the police checking that because it wasn't 30 feet from the corner. And even I can't see trying to make a turn. But you can't see the traffic coming down at you.
Why not make it one way?
Well, if we make that a one-way street, the next street don't go through. And then you have Pine Avenue, because that's the one that goes right into the 9th Avenue.
One of the biggest problems is we're calling it a cut-through, but the cut-through is really our residents.
Right.
It's the
We
people
live
who
there.
live there
Yes.
that are cutting through. It's not anybody cutting through to get to
I know what
Glendora.
street it is.
It's the only way we
Yeah.
can get back.
But I understand, but the one way has been talked about, and I think the biggest argument was, I never cut through because I go different directions. A lot of people live
Oh,
in
I live
Sheridan,
there.
people live in
You live
Forest.
up here, yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
get.
they
you know.
use that. I think we look at the stop sign first, and then maybe we paint. We paint it. I think the painting worked on Davis, so.
Well, the yellow line has helped on Davis Road with the apartments are there, I'll tell you that.
So the stop sign would actually be on Stratford.
Yeah, the three-way, it would be both sides, whatever, on Forest Avenue, you look at the stop. Yeah, the three-way stop sign, it's.
But it's only two directions.
Was it, is it a three-street and a street?
Yes.
No, it's a T.
I have a question.
That's a three-street.
No, it's not a T, it's an L.
There's one, Forest is curved.
It's a curve.
Forest curves,
There's two stop signs.
it could be two stops. One on Forest, one on Stratford.
You come put one on, you put one on Forest, hypothetically, you're going towards Clemens Road.
Yes,
You put two cars back to back at a stop sign.
You can't get through.
You couldn't get
yeah,
through.
that's gonna be a problem, because it's so
You can't get
narrow.
through.
That's not considered.
But on Stratford, it is a little wider on that side. Yeah, I could look at it. Yeah, everyone should have one car. But if you could look up that wide one, if that was, I mean, if you did research on it, don't do it here. you know,
It's
just
not worth the money you
Actually,
would
it's one of
spend.
the roads when I looked at it.
Oh, you did look at that?
Last week it
I mean, we own 15 feet,
No.
It's cost us more money
If-
than
if
having
we-
a stop sign.
but if, So we would have to pay the public service to move that telephone pole because we gave them an easement to put it there. And so we would have to compensate them.
$3,000 when you move them.
It could be more.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Now it could be, yes, you're right,
Depends
Brian.
on what,
The wires
what
all.
wires are attached with
They
it.
charge me
That's an issue, gentlemen, that's an issue we got rid of.
It could be
That's a
anywhere.
lot.
It might be in the right of way of the street. Okay. I would like to have I would like to have a closed session at the end, just to talk about a personnel issue, just a quick one. I know.
Because it's now.
Okay, let's make sure we went over everything.
You know how I hate driving.
Oh, we have one more thing.
No, you're not.
It is a personnel issue, but it's not anything. Just to give everybody some information again. If you remember 2 months ago, we tried to, we offered to our code enforcement official the fire inspector job, under the construction official. The amount of money that the construction official said it was worth, he said it was worth $3,000, so that's what we were paying the other guy. Our code enforcement would take it for $3,000, so we went out and tried to find other people to take it for $3,000. The construction code official was not able to find anybody else to do it for $3,000. When we did a little research, we found out that our previous fire inspector was being paid $6,300 for this job. But when he left, we were able to find somebody to do it for $3,000. Chris had a relationship with the guy, and he was able to help us out. We went back and we revisited the cost of the position. Basically, the way the construction office works is it's self-funding. So it has to bring in as much money as it spends. So what we found out, is you see what's highlighted, if I only bought one copy, you see that the department brings in about $92,000, and amazingly, it spends $92,000. So there was a concern that we couldn't afford that extra $2,000 to get the price up to the $5,000 is what is a more common fee. Barrington apparently is paying $5,000 for their guy. So as you can see, we brought in $5,233. So we talked to the construction official, we talked to our code enforcement official. It would not be part of his salary, it would be a separate stipend job. So if in the future we go with somebody else or some other relationship, it's not part of his hourly wage, which I think was a concern for everybody because it would raise the cost up higher. So what I'm proposing, what the construction official is proposing is that we set the salary for the fire inspector. Like I said, it was 63, it went down to 3. Now we would set the salary at 5. And then we review it after a year and see what the revenue is that's brought in. And
5?
then it would be, yeah.
So it would be 2,000, the salary would be 5, you don't have to, you always have the right to review it.
Yeah, every year.
So it's 5,000. Okay.
Yeah, and then what would happen is the gentleman who wants to retire, we would just have some kind of we'd have to coordinate it in such a way. I could find out when he wants to leave us and coordinate. But is there any questions on this? I mean, there's nobody out there who's willing to do the job for $3,000. That's on the road. Well, yeah, excuse me, with a proper certification. Yeah, no. So, what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll talk to the construction official, and if it's something we can do, you gotta be a fireman for 25 years. So,
You didn't know I was?
you're a fireman for 25 years.
I've been in a lot of fires.
Ms. Moore had asked us to at least discuss one other thing, an ordinance in regards to clothing bins. And what I did is I printed out 2 of them, one from Cinnaminson and one from Collins, or Cherry Hill. The only problem with the ordinances that I found from the other towns is they were interesting, but they didn't address what we thought was the bigger problem, that the size of the property should be considered when they're putting these clothing bins. They focused more on that they should be nonprofits, that,
Right.
that they were going towards,
Well, we could,
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I mean, I'm not against donations. I mean, we
Yeah.
have all the
Well, I think
boxes
we-
for
I think it's
dinner.
important that they are nonprofits. I think that was a good.
Well, I think that is too, but I think that they're putting them up anywhere nilly-willy, no concern about
Also,
anything.
that's what we need.
And that's the problem. And the property, some of them, and, you know, there's several of them that are very
Maybe your
small.
guy or your construction guy can give us some input on, should we do that, you need to have property that's X number of square feet before you can put one in?
Right.
Yes.
Or do we want to say that you need to have an open space, not
Right.
a building of so many square feet? And there are things that you might want to think about or talk to our code guy, see what his thoughts are. And then we can integrate that in an ordinance, that's not a problem. If you just give me those ideas.
Yeah, they did address the site triangles, which I guess was pretty common. Public safety issues were addressed in all the ordinances. So they couldn't be on the corners, they couldn't be blocking a driveway, they couldn't be in a parking area, things like that. They couldn't, if somebody had a site plan approval and they had to have so many parking spots, they couldn't use some parking spots to put these in. But they didn't address the size of the property, so that would be the only thing. Yeah.
Like being in school.
You haven't had this much homework? Well, I'm gonna have to give it to you afterwards,
All right,
because I can't find it.
okay, you can listen.
I can send it to you. Yeah, I have fun, too
I'm not
much.
gonna work on it.
I'm gonna be organized. He's a second. And then there was only,
Well, the only thing I want to know, what can we do? I mean, I don't know if I'm out of line, please tell me, like, what can we do collectively as a town to like try to address this issue with the 7-Eleven being vacant? What can we do?
Well, I think one of the-
Privately owned property, but can't we, like, do we have any right as a town to say, like, what are your intentions of, what are you doing with this
You
property?
can ask.
well, there's a couple things we can do. One, box office does represent our economic development for that. So on our website, things like that, if people want to call, they would talk to him
Okay.
first. We don't have a separate entity like some of the larger towns do. This was brought up at the planning board, it was brought up about, this is where this drive-through ordinance came about, was the idea that that might be a property that would be conducive to a drive-through, so if we change the ordinance, maybe that would help somebody come in and things like that. The second thing that was brought up was the Best Works for the Blind on
Yeah.
Clemensbridge Road has closed.
Yeah.
This was a property that was making a payment in lieu of taxes. So the property is assessed, it was supposed to pay $40,000 in property taxes. We've been getting $5,000 because it's a nonprofit for it.
But now it's not.
But the property is empty and they have it up for sale. And one of the things that they've reached out and to say is to help them sell that property was a tax abatement program where there would be a 5-year step program. Pretty interesting, yes. But this also ties into even the 7-Eleven. A tax abatement is probably the only thing that we really can do. If that property, the Best Works is a great example. The taxes are $40,000. Right now they're paying $5,000. So, we would divide that $40,000 over a 5-year period. So whoever buys that property would get a little bit of a break. And the reason we would do that is we're getting nothing anyway. So,
Well, you would do it as a percentage of the tax assessment, because it may be assessed, the taxes might be more than 40,000.
It might be more.
Person comes in and does renovations and yada, yada,
yeah,
yada.
yes, makes it worth even more.
So you would do it as a percentage of
The final,
the final, not
It's
a
assessed at $1.2 million right now.
yeah.
Right, so you would, and you could use that, to protect yourself from it being assessed at $2 million and only 5%.
Yes, yes. And then, so that was the only other suggestion that maybe, because this has come up many times, what do we do about the Black Horse Pike? How do we help? And typically, the only thing that other towns I've seen is the purchase price is the base, and then the renovations. So if they take a $100,000 property, put $200,000 in it, you phase in that $200,000. You still get your 85 tax value, and then
So
it's
you want
phased
to
in.
create a tax abatement program that's going to.
I think this is a suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, code enforcement's going after them just to try to get them to clean it up because they've just walked away from it. I mean, it's just
Do
at
you
that point.
have, you have the ability now.
Well, walk away, they do pay their taxes.
Okay, but they've walked away from any maintenance on the outside of the building. They
Well, we would
walked
have to
away,
go
Right, so we've
yeah.
gone after them, and they've complied. They have complied, but they're not coming, I'm just feeling like they should be a little more forthcoming, considering it's the main intersection in the middle of town. Like, what are your intentions here? Put up a sign, are you selling it, leasing it,
Yeah.
renting it, something?
Yeah.
Like,
Paying the taxes for kind of stuff.
Yeah.
yeah.
There-
Well, how about the signs? Can we at least tell them that they have to do something about the signs?
What's up?
The signs that they took off, so it's all opened up.
Right.
Well, that's a common thing that happens when a property gets vacated, they debrand it. And the reason that people don't like to take the structure of the sign down is because many towns are very difficult with their sign ordinances. So they leave the structure up there, and now most ordinances do allow for a maintenance issue, you have to maintain
What
it.
that would fall into, I'm sure we could have it fall into something or else.
Well, it's,
that-
you know,
What constitutes, I hate to say, I hate the word blight, but like what constitutes blight in the state of New Jersey if they stop paying their taxes and it just
No.
falls into disrepair?
Blight actually is very difficult to,
Yeah, to demonstrate.
Okay, I didn't know, I mean, that's why I'm
The
asking.
taxes issue stays by itself. I mean,
Right.
That's our first line of defense. If they stop paying it, we just, require the tax sales certificate and then foreclose it if they can take ownership. But, I would have to look at what your ordinance talks about in terms of what people's obligations.
we have a property maintenance ordinance, which I think is
That's
what
it.
we've been utilizing.
Exactly.
But didn't we raise
That's what I
the-
was just gonna say, we
the fees
forced
for
their,
that?
yes.
We raised the fees, and I think that there's been compliance, like you say.
Yes.
They've cut the grass, they moved the
Exactly.
stuff, they degraded
Force
it,
them
cleaned
to
it up.
force their hand.
But it does look like an empty
They've
building.
been very compliant, like they had wires all hanging, Keith went after them, and they did come out and they did repair it, they made it better. But they're
The blocks are all coming off.
right,
Somebody ran
everything,
into the
that's
block.
it, the block, it's becoming a problem now, like it's, who's gonna take care of any of the bushes or any of the stuff that's around, not the front part, that's something
How
we
long
do.
has it been not in use?
It's almost a year, it's almost a year.
What they did is they took back, they took back a lot of the properties that they had, they started closing them down, and then within 6 months, I think they took the tanks out, which was great that they cleaned the tanks, took them out. Then they took the branding down, they cleaned up outside a little bit, but like I said, the only thing that I was,
No indication that it's for sale.
only the planning
And
board,
even the neighbors that, I mean, quite honestly, you can only go by the rumor mill so much, but even the neighbors that around it are like, what is going on with it? Like, what are they doing? Are they selling it? It's not even anywhere that you can find any idea of how much it's up for sale for. They're
the
not
planning
doing
board, the only
anything.
mention of the planning board was to talk about changing the ordinance, but I don't know if Candy, our chairman, talked to anybody, but we can find out.
That's all,
Okay.
just, you know.
Mr. Fowler, do you want to bring some things up? Do you want Mr. Bayshore, or what do you want to do?
Mark and I went out the other day and,
You want to take a microphone? No, we have two.
Mark and I went out the other day and assessed the streets and I took them all over, showed them all the streets and I said, I don't want to tell you which streets I think are the worst. And when we were all done, the same two streets I thought he thought were the worst.
Okay.
So he's going to get some numbers on that.
Everybody in a great mindset.
That's it.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Is this something that could, I mean, you guys do want to propose something? I mean, you could have get numbers before the next meeting, right? See, the bond money is set from last year, right, Mr. Wright? The money's last year's bond.
Here's the better.
Oh, go ahead.
So,
Every marriage is democracy. One woman, one life.
Right, and happy wife, happy life. That's not-
really? Joyce, are you getting
We're looking, we're in the process of doing cost estimates for all, I think it's 4 roads we looked at, 4 or 5.
So we'll get the 4 roads, the committee gets together, picks what the money can do, and we'll bring it back. What's your goal? You guys want to have something at the April caucus? April's 1 week's too soon, right?
Right. We'll probably have cost estimates by next Tuesday, but I don't know if it can be discussed or not.
Well, if you could, I mean, the only, myself, you know me, I like to push, we always talked about getting our quotes out, for the bid as soon as possible for roads, so that we're ready to go by end of spring, early summer.
The 2 worst were Washington Avenue and South Oakland Avenue. One thing about South Oakland, it might be a good candidate for a state aid application because it connects 2 county roads. Currently, we have Reed Avenue Phase 3 as our state aid application. We're hoping to hear within the next 2 weeks whether that is successful or not. But going forward, South Oakland might be a good candidate to put in for state aid just because of the 2 county roads it connects. So it might make sense to work on Washington now because that has a lot of traffic, it's in bad shape. But we'll look at the costs of everything. But right now, that's where we're leaning for, is just on driving.
Does the application, does it help if we put some of our money into the application and say, we're starting, because we've got this 300,000 number, I don't know how far down you thought about going down to Washington. You think of going all the way to Haverford or
Somewhere.
Pleasant place to,
That's like the worst.
from that direction?
all the way up to Lesham.
Oh, you want to get that far?
Well,
Well, that would be great.
That might use up your entire
Yeah,
money.
yeah.
There's a good chance of it that would happen.
Okay. Well, see what you guys can do.
I'll have it.
What's that? We're down to 271? Yeah. But you're saying it might be a great application, even Washington Avenue goes to Evesham Road. So both of them are feeder roads. Okay. Well,
So we'll look at that, and we'll get numbers to the committee.
well, one thing I know we've done in the past is if we didn't have enough money to go all the way down the road, we would kind of stop at some point and then continue. So, you know, if you guys want to figure out how much we could, you know, if we only have a certain amount of money, and then get started with it. Okay? Was there anything else?
Streets will donate more money.
Public Works.
Public Works has no one.
Did you have anything else, Mike?
No.
I want to bring something up though. Go ahead. I just want to, the only thing I want to, I'm just trying to get it out there. Okay, I just want to make sure that everybody is aware that yard waste pickup will start April 7th. So spread the word, tell everybody. The leaf truck will also be out that week. So anybody, we're encouraging you to clean up your leaves, get them out curbside. They will be out picking them up. And yard waste will be every Monday from that point forward with the same guidelines as last year. Open container, brown bags, bundles of sticks 4 feet long, no more than 50, tie them up, no more than 50 pounds. That's the ordinance, that's the way it has to be, and everyone's complied very well from last year, so, but that's the big thing. Monday, April 7th, I know we get a couple warm days and everybody goes crazy, so just hold on to it till April 7th. That's the rest, you can wait till council.
Okay.
As long as we don't have a business.
Patty, did you have anything?
I'm gonna wait for council.
Okay, Mark?
I think we talked about everything that I had in my report.
Okay.
So I'm covered.
And then Irish Hill Road, we've actually had 2 applications in on that.
We have 2 applications in. We, I don't know if you remember, we were going to do that as shared services with Belmar, and they needed some survey work because it's a strange right of way back there. It's hard to tell where the road ends and where the driveway begins. So it's been surveyed. We're looking to get some design plans put together quickly so we can get Joe Ciano out there with Belmar and get this thing repaved. But since we're going to be using CDBG money, which, so we have to follow guidelines, we have to get the project signed and stuff like that, so there's going to be some additional costs, but you're going to be getting CDBG money to offset those costs.
Right.
And Runnemede's going to help, so we'll save money too.
Yes.
There was also an email, I forget where it came from, but there was some concern with a water main and trying to make a loop, and we have to look into that.
I don't know anything about Okay.
No.
It was me.
Okay.
Somebody said something about a water main down
Yeah,
there?
who said it?
Fred, Liberty.
Yes.
Fred knew something?
So was it, but
Well, there's a fire, because there's
Yeah, he
a fire
talked
hydrant.
about Irish Hill, yeah, because,
he wanted to loop it with.
yeah, in case
but I'm not
there
sure
was
if
a
that's-
fire.
Yeah,
I was talking about some type of.
Okay.
that might delay things if we want to try and get American Water involved.
That might be the time to fix it, though, before we pay it, right?
So we're going to look into that as well.
Okay?
The only other thing I'm gonna bring up, I'm all over the place, sorry, is, I wanna, remember I spoke to you, remember I spoke to you about, property maintenance liens? And I
Yes.
said to you that, my superintendent for Public Works had attended a meeting with other superintendents from other departments and other towns, and that, Cherry Hill, to be quite honestly, and I did look it up, and I neglected to bring it, I'm sorry, they have, increased, even though we increased our property maintenance recently for vacant properties, they have gotten they've gotten to a point that they have so many, they've started to increase them. If they're on the rolls this year, it's one price. If they're on the rolls next year, it almost triples. And if they're on the rolls for more than 3 years that we're maintaining the property, it goes up significantly.
Where does it go
So-
a long way in compliance?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it went-
Absolutely, I think it was an awesome idea.
Went from
So, I mean,
500 to
even though
1,000.
we have recently done it, I think it's something we should revisit.
Some people are never gonna do it, and okay, fine, eventually we're gonna collect the money, and that's great. But some people are gonna say, whoa, this is getting out of hand.
Exactly, and
So it's
that's,
never a bad move to.
now,
make
I
it
think we should maybe
onerous.
readdress
Yeah.
it. I have the information, I'll bring it to council just so.
Well, now that
everybody
it's
have it.
spring, we should be able to get a good idea of what houses are out there again.
I will have a list by council of how many houses we have maintained that are still on the rolls, as well as how many more have been added. I should have a pretty good figure by then.
Mr. Wright, the floor is yours. You got 4 minutes.
I'm going to start off, I will save the official part of this for Ms. Kelly when she comes back. Just wanted to point out, since Deputy Chief of Borough forwarded me an email, that they had the JIF safety breakfast this morning, and he basically was pointing out that we did very well. So we were qualifiers for the incentive program, and that means we will be be getting a check for $900 for a safety committee, and they received a plaque acknowledging that. They also received an additional plaque, one for 15% reduction in claims, and one for no loss of time claims in 2013. So I will take the official plaques and certifications for the meeting with Ms. Kelly. I just wanted to put that out. I think you already touched on the fact that we were notified that we're going to get the 2014 Safe and Secure grant. That's $39,000. It does say in here, due to the uncertainty of future funding, you're encouraged to identify alternative funding sources to supplement potential reductions in grant funds. We always keep that in the back of our mind, but it's good that we got it this year. We'll worry about it. We'll watch that for next year. From the timeline point of view, we are anticipating doing our budget introduction next week at the regular council meeting. I'll have a brief, maybe just like 5 or 6 pages of PowerPoint, just going over basics. We'll see if the dog and pony show for the actual budget hearing. Basically, in accordance with the rules, we must wait 28 days before, in between introduction and budget hearing. So that pushes us basically into mid-May. We'll have to get together with calendars and et cetera to figure out when we would have the actual budget hearing. But that's about the time frame where we are. It's almost close enough to the caucus that might recommend that we try and marry the 2 meetings to Joyce's thumbs up to keep us from having to come back again. Of course, that will be contingent upon approval from DCA for adoption at that point in time. Based on the timeline that we're on right now, we don't anticipate any problems similar to what we had in prior years with the timing for bills going out and things of that nature. Barring no unanticipated events happening, we'll be online. So that looks good. I wanted to go over I think we touched at the last meeting, or the last caucus, on the stressors in the budget and the things that were looking good this year. I want to talk more, just real quick on the levy side of it. Our levy last year, give me a second. Looking at another number for capital.
Can I just interrupt for a second? Did you, the bonds for Reed Avenue and Reed and Orchard, is that something we're going to do at the council meeting to relieve them? You would send a letter basically saying that the performance bonds, that we're able to let them go? You don't need to do that tonight, we can do it at the council meeting.
Yeah.
We'll put those on, because that was the emails that came through. Did everybody get those to release that? But you don't need that tonight. We're giving them a moment.
Whatever. Hey.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Basically, what everyone, the way that most municipalities and most residents look at the budget process is a comparison to the prior year. And basically, there's a couple items there. With the governor's levy cap, or the legislative levy cap, it has exceptions in it. So basically, even when you're complying with the 2% levy cap, you could have a 3.5% increase based on what other stuff is allowed. Our goal, again, this year is to have a hard 2% cap, which means that last year's municipal purpose tax was $4,897,000. So basically, a 2% hard cap would be approximately $98,000 is the amount that we'd be looking to increase the municipal levy. There's a lot of factors that go into being able to do that, and they even include, our total levy is about $18 million if you include the local school, the regional school, and the county. So obviously, we have to see where their budgets fall, because we get the benefit of giving them 100% of their money. So basically, our reserve fund collected taxes to make sure that they get 100%. It's something that fluctuates, and it's also covered in the cap. So that's a factor that we really can't control, but it's one of the items that's factored in there. One of the other items that's not in that levy, but it's part of the budget, is the library is billed separately. Based on the municipal information sheets, the library minimum bill will be going from $175,336 to $176,493. So based on the values, they'll be getting about an $1,100 increase in the billing process. To the net valuation tax bill that was certified by the county in January, it's $506,582,363. So basically, that's the number, that's the driver basically for what the tax rate is at the end of the process. The way that we express that usually is in residential terms with the average home value. The residential value in the value taxable is $380,658,400. There's 252,588 parcels, so that gives us basically an average home value of $147,086. So when we talk about the tax rate, we'll be talking per average home value. So just
147. That's the average house. Well, that's what the school's based on. It's based on the same thing. Correct?
So, yeah, we all use the same net valuation taxable, and actually I give both the regional and the local that number.
You give them that,
Yeah,
yes.
just
Yeah.
we have a book, so we all share that information. So basically that's, the things that we're working on right now, putting a bunch of documents together. We're still waiting to see how we're gonna fare with one of our larger taxpayers. We had some hope. They did call and request, numbers, so we have our fingers crossed on that part.
Want to talk about the pension? Tell everybody good news?
Yes, more good news that came in this week. We received a revised pension bill at the end of last week. What they're, I don't know how they do this, it's based on the 2012 revised actuarial values, based on the fact that I guess all the employees are making contributions at a greater rate now, et cetera, et cetera. And it's between the police and fire and the public employees, it's a reduction of about $36,000. So that helps offset some of the snow costs and the increase in the health benefits. And again, I'll just recap that our main drivers, health benefits, salaries and wages, pension bills.
Truck maintenance.
Our maintenance cost has definitely gone up. And you're seeing more of it on the budget because we've been trying to keep it out of the grant, which was also in that temporary budget, was the Clean Communities money. So that's available now for appropriation. So we're looking forward to the next week and.
Because the health costs did go up, correct?
They did, they went up by about $100,000.
So the health went up 100,000, the pension went down 37. So, you know, but I think we've done well cutting costs in the last several years. Is there anything else? Okay, does anybody have anything else?
No,
No?
That's okay.
No?
thank you. I feel fulfilled.
Yeah?
Open space grant, $100.
Oh, it was sent in?
Good. What's your plan?
The pole barn and the path.
With who?
Pole barn and the path. All that
Nice.
asphalt path.
Okay, great.
We're back on the agenda, doing pretty good. This portion is open to the public. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward, state your name and address. Seeing no one, is there a motion to close the public portion?
I make a motion to close the public portion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, closed session. Yes, we're gonna have a closed session, we're gonna come back and just adjourn, so it's up to you.
Closed session, we're gonna talk about personnel
Yes.
and litigation.
Okay, we're gonna talk about personnel and litigation.
We're gonna be in for
15 minutes? 15 minutes. Okay, now do I have a motion to go into closed session?
I make a motion to go into closed session.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, we're in the closed session.